Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sorry I Like This. I'm Ezra, and this is my co-host Caleb.
Howdy, howdy. Welcome.
And this
The
is
first
the
podcast.
very first podcast. Neither of us have ever done a podcast before. No, that's not true.
That's not true.
But yeah, we're starting this. Sorry I Like This. I would say
Yep.
is it's a gaming podcast. We're going to be talking about a lot of news topics and just games we're playing. Yeah, and I don't know. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Oh no, I'm really excited to be working on a podcast again. Just a little bit of context. Ezra and I were, we became really good friends in college, and we actually had a separate podcast called the Lab Rats podcast, and we are now doing our own podcast together, just us two,
Yeah.
working specifically talking about gaming. So it's been an incredible couple years in gaming since we've done that podcast, and
Yeah.
I can't wait to be talking about these type of just recording and everything on the podcast again. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So the format is going to be we're going to spend about half an hour talking about various news topics. Again, specifically video game news that could range from like developer strikes, unionizations, to just the newest trailer. So we'll cover all sorts of things. And then this week we're kind of doing something a little different with the other hour that we've kind of allotted ourselves. We're going to be going through the Game Awards last year, and we'll be talking about sort of what won, what didn't win, what was nominated, what was left out maybe, and we'll be talking about that in the context of this year and sort of a game of the year watch, kind of. So you'll get our thoughts, not just as to what we've already played, but also what we think will be at the show. And we'll obviously be doing a Game Awards watch, so we'll see what we got right and what we got wrong. But yeah. So in that case, let's jump into the news. And I guess the biggest news from this past week was Hideki Kamiya, famous for being the developer or one of the developers on the first Devil May Cry game, and then would go on to found Platinum and create Bayonetta. Has left Platinum and has also started a YouTube channel following in the footsteps of Masahiro Sakurai, who did the same. I don't think Sakurai left Sora Limited, but I think he did. I mean, he did start the YouTube channel. So they're both doing the YouTube thing. And yeah, I mean, I was saying before the show that as a Platinum fan, this kind of speaks to a bit of a worry that I have with Platinum, that they're kind of going downhill, I guess. Because to me, I guess I'll say up front, Nier Automata is my favorite game of all time, and the 2010s, I mean, they released so many amazing games.
Yeah, there was a time where, like, up until the last few years, if Platinum was in any kind of consideration of any kind of development,
Yeah,
you already knew it was going to be a good game. And yeah, I agree. It's been kind of going downhill a little bit.
Yeah, like, because I'm just thinking, like, 2013 they released Metal Gear Rising. I think maybe it was 2013 as well that they released the Wonderful 101. That was the Wii U game. And then 2015 might have been Bayonetta 2, which wasn't exactly a financial hit, but it was a critical success.
And I think it gained more of a following given the gap it had between the second and third.
Well, and Nintendo really pushing it as kind of... Because, you know, Bayonetta is sort of a Sega character, but Nintendo sort of took over kind of taking care of and marketing the character and stuff. Not to mention Bayonetta would go on to join Smash not too long after.
Yeah, 2018.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact time.
She wasn't in Smash 4, wasn't she?
She was.
I don't think so.
She was a DLC character in that game. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So then maybe, the timeline would be further back then. My bad.
I think she came out before Cloud. I think Cloud was the last one. I could be wrong about that. But maybe she and Cloud got announced at the same time.
It's possible.
I don't remember. All I remember is my face being blown off when Cloud was announced. But yeah, so then they released Bayonetta 2, and then Nier came out. Nier famously saved the studio. Like they very much credit that project as the reason they're still around today. And then Astral Chain, which was my game of the year. I know it tends to be a much more divisive game, but that released in 2019.
But to you, they couldn't miss at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I was so, like, when they announced Babylon's Fall, this was before I knew much about it, but when they announced Babylon's Fall, I was like, oh, Square Enix is working with Platinum. This is just going to be awesome. There's no way they can mess this up. And then they did mess it up. But yeah, there's and then Bayonetta 3 came out last year and did, I would say, reasonably well critically. I wouldn't say it was like a bomb critically. I know fans weren't super thrilled about the narrative, at least. I haven't played the Bayonetta trilogy, so I don't know. But
me neither.
But I know that it was kind of a miss with fans, but it did reasonably well on the Switch. But even then, I mean, this news that Kamiya is leaving Platinum, it doesn't exactly...
Well, didn't they make... sorry.
I was just going to say, Kamiya leaving Platinum doesn't exactly inspire confidence that they're course correct.
Right. Did Platinum make Origins?
The Bayonetta Origins game?
Uh-huh.
That's a good question. Let me look that up.
Because I don't remember Origins doing that well.
Origins. Syriza and the Lost Demon. Yeah, they devved that game.
Yeah.
And it was published by Nintendo, so... Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that game was a smaller game anyways, but...
Yeah, it's... That game very much seems like... If Bayonetta 3... I mean, because Bayonetta 3 was bogged down not just by being a third-person action game Switch exclusive, which being a Switch exclusive doesn't mean a whole lot, but being an exclusive on any console and being a third-person action game is kind of a hard sell for a lot of people. So I think like if we had gotten the timeline where Bayonetta 3 had just skyrocketed in like sales and critical acclaim and positive buzz, that the Origins game would have maybe had a better go of it. But as it is now, I mean, Bayonetta 3 suffered such a bad PR disaster in 2022 when the original voice actor came out and made those allegations that then turned out to be misleading at best, I think is the best way to put it. So it's not like that franchise is in a particularly great spot, even though the game itself was at worst fine, as far as I can tell. So yeah, it's just a shame because Kamiya is very much kind of the reason that Platinum is so good at what they do. And for him to leave, again, it's one of those things that there is so much amazing talent at Platinum. Like, I don't think Kamiya was even a main developer on the Nier team. I don't think he was a huge player on that game. But even so, for him to leave again, I guess I'm just sort of going in circles now, but it doesn't tell me that, you know, one of my favorite studios is doing great. And that's a shame because Nier, Astral Chain, Metal Gear Rising, like those are some of my favorite games. And to see those people not get a chance, I mean, I would love to see an Astral Chain 2. I would love to see like an iteration on that formula. And right now it's sort of looking like Platinum's best chance is getting bought out. And I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to Nintendo or Square buying them out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want it to be like Xbox, because what's Xbox going to do with Platinum? Bring back Scalebound? Like, that's not happening. But yeah, like their best chance being them getting bought out just seems kind of unfortunate because I really liked them being in the position where they could sort of farm themselves out and, you know, they could go work on Nier here and then do a Nintendo exclusive and then do basically whatever they wanted. And yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, did you have anything else you wanted to add to the Kamiya story?
No, I think we've pretty much summed it up. I think, you know, it is sad to see the state of Platinum, and I hope we can see them rebound with a new game soon, and hopefully that, you know, whatever happens, you know, they both are able to get to develop their own games again. So,
and you know, Kamiya has said that he signed a non-compete clause or whatever,
so he can't do it for a year. Yeah,
which is you know, that's a shame, but you know, hopefully that means he joins up with a new studio sometime sometime next year, and he starts working on a cool game. If it would be, I mean, it would be one of those crazy stories where he comes back to Capcom and is part of the new Devil May Cry, right? Like that would be insane. Not that he needs to. There's next to no reason for him to be part of that project. Itsuno is one of the greatest game directors on the planet. Like, there's no reason for Kamiya to come in, but
Right.
that would just be an awesome story. So yeah, so Caleb, you brought this to my attention. Can you talk about next week's releases and how that's going to be handled?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So in case you don't know, next week's a big week. Big week for a lot of people. Big week if you're a classic gamer fan or just a all around big comic book fan, because you are getting feasted. It's Thanksgiving.
It is.
Thanksgiving has come early, and that not only are we getting one, but we're getting two big games that are going to be released at midnight at GameStop, which rarely happens anymore.
Yeah.
And here we go. It's going to be Spider-Man 2 and Mario Wonder. Two big heavy hitters, and I think it's going to be a really big turnout for them.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see, especially, now we could get on a discussion on digital versus physical all we want, but like it's really cool to see to see faith in physical games selling around that time again. So it's just a really cool thing. And I think, I got a physical version from GameStop coming, I pre-ordered it, so it's a pretty cool thing for me because then I can get it at midnight, download it, go to work the next day, come back, and I can immediately play it. Rather than getting off of work, going to GameStop, putting it in, and then maybe playing that night.
One, it's one of those things where just having that ability to say, okay, I don't have to wait super long to play this game, because the state of modern games is very much that when you have the disc, that doesn't mean the game's on your system. You have to get home. You have to do the whole.
It's basically a licensing key.
Yeah, and
that's very apparent in PlayStation and Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, both have definitely gone in that direction. And in fairness, there are advantages to that. That's kind of the whole reason we're starting to see this push away from load screens. So
exactly,
it definitely but it does help that a game can come out at midnight and it'll just, it'll download in the background and you can get home and sort of just go to town.
But the thing is, here's the thing. It's like, yeah, you can actually get it digitally and maybe it's already downloaded the day before. Yeah. You just can't get on it. But the difference is, if you're I shouldn't say I'm a collector, but there are certain games that I will buy physically just because I want the actual hardcover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not even about, I'll do that with Kingdom Hearts. Although Kingdom Hearts is a different story. Not going to lie, I'm pretty sure the next release I'm going to buy it digitally and physical. Just so I can play.
Just so you can play it as fast as possible, yeah.
Yeah. But that's a whole other story. But as far as collections, I like to have that physical release of games that I deem that I want to keep.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
But there's games that I will play at midnight, digitally. I have no problems with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're probably both going to do that with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah, probably.
And
although I am getting that physical though.
Oh,
I'm getting the steelbook on that.
That's fair. I think, I don't know how it's going to work, but I know Persona 3 Reload's going to be on Game Pass, so I think I will just kind of be able to download it and play it. I don't think I'll have to worry about it too much, which is nice.
That's true.
And it's getting a physical release, but I think if I don't have to pay for it, I'm not going to.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that? I mean,
I think that's it. Other than I just, it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Not huge like the old days, but it's going to be good to see. I think it's going to have a good turnout.
Yeah. I think next week, if you don't count whenever COD releases, I think next week is going to be the biggest week of the year for games.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think COD's going to release that big this year.
That's possible.
I'm going to say it now. With it being so controversial of it being Modern Warfare 3, and kind of how it's just Modern Warfare 2 DLC. And I'm not meaning like that as like, I know a lot of people will be like, oh, it's just, they'll talk about a sequel being, oh, it's just DLC.
Yeah, like how they talk, that's the talking point with
like
Tears
how they
of the
talk
Kingdom.
About Tears of the Kingdom. This is a different story. This was actually meant to be DLC. And then they went back on it and was like, oh, we're just going to call it Modern Warfare 3 and like overhaul our UI that people got so upset about with Modern Warfare 2. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so it's been so controversial.
It might just...
I don't think it's going to be that big. It would be big for a DLC. But I don't think it's going to be
fair.
that big of a Call of Duty release. Not compared to last year's Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah.
Which was a bigger one.
Yeah. I mean, not to be too much of a hater, but I know that COD's been kind of on a decline for the past 4 or 5 years, give or take.
Right.
So, yeah. All right, let's move on. We don't have a lot of time left in the news segment. So, just, going back to Spider-Man 2 and Mario Wonder, they have both gone gold. They're both ready. I mean, Nintendo doesn't release an unfinished game. That really doesn't happen. I can't think of the last time that happened, actually.
Right.
And Spider-Man 2, I mean, Insomniac has one of the biggest, or one of the sort of most consistent track records in the games industry right now. Right. Like I can't think of, I think they had sort of started to wane around the Ratchet, like before the Ratchet reboot. But past that, I mean, Sunset Overdrive, the Ratchet reboot, Ratchet Rift Apart, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, presumably the new Spider-Man. I mean, they have not, they don't release unfinished games. They release, at worst, overly short games like Miles. But Miles is kind of a special case. So I'm not worried about either of these. Again, next week's going to be probably the biggest week of the year, especially if you're just talking about core games. If you don't talk about, because, FIFA and COD and all of those sort of sports games are going to always blow every other kind of game out of the water. That's just the way it is. So, just a couple of loose threads here. Bandai Namco announced the Pac-Man Mega Tunnel Battle Chomp Champs for...
What?
for... let me read the title again. Pac-Man Mega Tunnel Battle Chomp Champs. Now, tell me which is worse, the name or the concept, because it is a Pac-Man 64-person battle royale.
It's 100% the concept.
Yeah, right. Now, to be fair, some games do translate to the battle royale formula. I know a lot of people love Tetris 99. I've heard actually really good things about the F-Zero 99 that just came out. So it's not impossible for this to be fun. But on its face, it just sounds so ridiculous, right? Like, how does that even work?
It definitely does. It's like the the name itself is kind of like a little bizarre, but it is kind of interesting. But
Yeah.
The concept of the game, it's like that's so not what Pac-Man is.
Yeah.
And it's just like I definitely like was intrigued kind of by the name. Now I'm kind of like
Yeah, no, and I saw a comment that this is dead on arrival if it's not free to play. And to me, that's the crux. Like, if this isn't free to play, what's even the point of releasing it? And yeah, so that's a funny thing, funny announcement that happened. That's coming out early 2024. I guess we'll keep our eyes on it.
right.
If it's at all interesting. And I mean, let me just go over. So, not only does Mario Wonder and Spider-Man 2 come out next week, we also got a couple days earlier, we've got Sonic Superstars, which is...
Oh yeah.
It's basically New Super Mario Brothers Sonic. It is the
absolutely
easiest way of putting it. It's not anything super special. It doesn't... I will say, it looks good. It doesn't look like a bad game whatsoever. It's not... As a Sonic fan, it's not inherently interesting to me because I'm not a big classic guy. I sort of started with the adventure games, so this art style and stuff, it appeals to me, but it's not like part of my fandom in that same way.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's like, I think this game would be bigger if it wasn't for Mario Wonder coming out right beforehand. Like,
right after.
Oh, right after. Because it's like, they're the same game. And honestly, the talk would be, I'll tell you this right now, the talk would be, now granted, your Sonic fans are going to buy it. Like, they're going to buy it no
Sonic
matter what.
Fans they're a guaranteed base.
I'm more speaking to the casual gamers and just families. Because when families are going to be going to buy a game, you know what I mean, that are just going to be looking for a game to get for Christmas and everything, Sonic would have been huge because what would be the talking point?
Yeah.
Oh, do you like Mario? This is exactly like Mario, but it's Sonic.
Yeah.
In a Sonic version.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That would have been the talk.
Yeah, you should have. It's one of those games that they really should have pushed to November. I'll be honest.
Right.
I think they should have pushed it just a couple of weeks. I think it makes some sense because we've kind of had this trifecta of the new Sonic Prime season came out a month or two ago, and then we just got the new Sonic Frontiers update, and now we'll get Sonic Superstars. So there's kind of this trifecta that they have. But yeah, I do feel like they sort of. I hope that Sonic Superstars does well enough. I mean, it is to its benefit that it's going to be on literally everything, including the Switch, whereas Mario is a Switch exclusive. So, you know, there's I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm interested to see how that game does. Just being up against both Mario and Spider-Man, like Sonic is not the IP it used to be. And again, as a Sonic fan, this game, it's not unique enough, especially against the Mario game that's coming out, for it to sort of stand on its own. But I mean, there's always the chance that Super Mario Brothers Wonder comes out and, from a critical perspective, is kind of a nothing burger. Because to me, Mario Wonder seems more like a graphical upgrade than a mechanical upgrade, which is fine. It's not like Mario needed that much work in the mechanics department.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's only so different you can make 2D Mario. That's why a lot of people prefer 3D Mario.
Right.
So, you know, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Spider-Man reviews haven't come out yet. Neither are Mario Wonder reviews. They'll probably come out
probably sometime early next week.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
If I had to guess, Spider-Man reviews probably won't come out until day of, just because that's how it tends to go with Sony releases nowadays. Mario, maybe a little bit earlier, like the 17th or something. But yeah, nothing too spectacular. We'll talk about the reception. I did forget to mention this will be a bi-weekly show, at least starting out. Maybe down the road we'll shift to weekly, but right now we're going to be a bi-weekly show. So next week we won't have a show, but then the week after we will. So that'll be when we talk about Spider-Man and stuff.
I mean, I'm looking forward to that. It'll be a really good discussion. Good. Plus, we would have played a little bit at least, if not all of it. So.
I mean, I can say for myself, I have enough time that I can probably make my first playthrough happen. But yeah, it's a whole. I mean, we'll see. We'll see how much spoilers we can go into at the time. But yeah, all right. Well, that'll be our news segment. So yeah, let's move on. So again, we're going to talk about. I'll kind of go through the sort of the most important categories. We'll skip like best esports and best family.
Yeah.
Probably best VR too. And I'll sort of pick and choose, and if there's any ones that I missed, you can feel free to talk about those. But yeah, I'll just go through all of the categories. We'll talk about what was there, what was not there, and we'll sort of give our game of the year watch, so to speak. And yeah, so let's start out with most anticipated game. Last year, just because I think this is an interesting category.
Yeah.
So last year it was Final Fantasy 16, Hogwarts Legacy, Resident Evil 4, Starfield, and Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom obviously won by a landslide.
Right.
I think so. It's no surprise that Tears of the Kingdom won. I think it is interesting that Hogwarts Legacy was on that list, just given how controversial that game ended up being.
Yeah, it was controversial, but it was so big at the same time. Like, it was a really big launch.
Yeah, I mean, it was something. Go ahead.
Especially for WB.
Yeah.
Like, WB needed that.
Yeah, WB Gaming absolutely needed that win. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, including myself, would say that, whatever your sort of stance on the whole Harry Potter thing is, the fact is that the Harry Potter IP is so big that it's sort of on that like FIFA tier, right? Where it is able to sort of, because, if, let's say, like, if every single developer at the FIFA team was, caught doing something horrible, and there was this, not even something horrible, just like controversial, or maybe a bit like veering into the realm of like hate speech or something like that. The amount of people who wouldn't even know that that's happening and would just go and buy FIFA, right? Who wouldn't even think to wonder about that sort of thing is staggering. And I mean, we have a couple of gaming franchises like that. We have Pokemon, we have COD, we have, I mean, Mario and Zelda to some extent, probably a little bit lesser. But yeah, like Harry Potter, especially for this being one of the first like big budget open world Harry Potter games, right? For that to be, and for it to come out and be, by all accounts, like it's a WB third person RPG. Like, if you like those, you'll like this game. If you were an Arkham fan, you'll probably like Hogwarts Legacy, which is funny.
It's unironically, yeah.
Yeah, like that is the foundation of this game. I think, there's very much an argument that Harry Potter kind of transcends the quote unquote discourse, right? And yeah, so I guess, what are your thoughts as to like what most anticipated is going to consist of?
Like upcoming?
Yeah, like
this next year?
Yeah.
Well, it's tough to say because it's still kind of early on. I don't think games have really shown what's coming, but obviously in the context of the Game Awards at this point, whatever they're going to say is most anticipated, it's going to be like has already been revealed. Yeah. So I think as far as sure bets that are going to be like listed as most anticipated for next year, I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah, I was going to say for sure going to be that's definitely on that list.
Just like how Final Fantasy 16 was, it's definitely going to be on that list.
Yeah.
As far as like trying to think other big. See, this is the problem. At the same time, this year, Sony didn't reveal anything post Q4.
Yeah. Yeah, Spider-Man is the last thing we know about.
I don't even believe Nintendo showed post Q4 as well. I mean,
so we have the Princess Peach game.
Oh, well, yeah, but
that's...
I guess if they're really grasping at straws at nominees, then I could see that coming in.
But yeah,
but at the same time, I can't really think... Can't really think of anything.
So I guess my... Yeah, I think you're right. Next year is kind of in a weird spot because there's plenty of big stuff that could come out that we just don't know about yet.
Right. Nothing's been
And
officially revealed. Obviously, we're going to get another Call of Duty next year.
yeah, but that's never going to be on a most anticipated list.
Right.
That's just not happening.
Madden
So
25.
that would be
You know what
that
I'm
would be
saying?
funny.
Like,
That would be funny.
yeah.
My head initially goes to Persona 3 Reload
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
just
Persona 3, yep.
because I mean, you could have easily told me that Persona 5 was going to win most anticipated the year before it came out, and I would have bought it. Like, that franchise is just so big, especially
Does
in
it
relation
have
to
to-
other JRPGs. Like, yeah,
Does it have to be for 2024?
I believe so. I could be wrong.
Okay, because I was going to say you could easily put GTA 6 and Elder Scrolls 6
Yeah,
on there
you could.
if you're really grasping at straws.
Yeah,
That would be
yeah.
really funny to see, because isn't that one
Yeah.
fan voted?
Oh
So,
yeah,
yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah, or I don't know. I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah. What else? I mean, I think it's interesting because I would have expected. It's interesting because to me, we're sort of right around the time where it makes sense to start showing us Elden Ring DLC. Like they've announced that they're making it, so that's happening. It's more a matter of when it's actually coming out. And I mean, if that gets shown before the Game Awards, there's an argument that could be on the most anticipated list. It's a bit of a weird choice just because it's a DLC and not a new game, but
Right.
weirder things have happened. But yeah, it is tough because I'm having a hard time thinking of what
I'm having even a hard time thinking of Xbox exclusives.
like in reality, like Starfield was kind of the last big one we knew about,
Right.
and yeah, I mean,
Definitely not a Halo coming out next year.
and there's not a Halo. There's not. I mean, there's the potential for Wolverine. Maybe.
Oh, I guess I guess Wolverine could be, yeah.
Like that could get shown.
That's been announced.
Yeah.
Yeah, and technically it wouldn't be too far off from I wouldn't be surprised Wolverine comes out next year.
Yeah.
That's been a whole separate dev team from Insomniac. So
yeah. Well, and
except the creative director, I think, of Spider-Man 2 has moved on to Wolverine. So he's
okay.
part of that dev team has expanded, I think.
Sure. Yeah. Probably in order to make it happen. But yeah.
Let's not doubt Insomniac's turnout time though.
It's crazy because they have I think they are unironically the single best game dev to work for, and they churn out games like it's nothing. Like it's a little crazy actually.
It is crazy.
Insomniac developers are constantly going on the record and we're like, yeah, we actually, there was no crunch. There's no, we actually have pretty good jobs, all things considered. Like things are good over here. And then they just, once a year, maybe twice a year, sometimes they'll release a banger game. And it's like, oh,
right.
It's not to get too far off track, but it is an example of, because, Spider-Man PS4 it's an open world, but I wouldn't say it's a particularly big game, right?
No.
And I mean, there has been a lot of discussion of games just being too big, and that's part of the reason why development has gotten so challenging, is this sort of demand for bigger and bigger and bigger, requiring just too much for any one team to handle. And I mean, you look at Tears of the Kingdom's credits, and you just see studio after studio after studio that worked on Tears of the Kingdom. Right. And yeah, so I think, Insomniac very much pushes this like focused 10 to 15 hour experience most of the time. Maybe with Spider-Man, it'll jump to like a 20, 25. And, they'll have side content like any other game, but you're really just focusing on this experience. And it's going to be as high quality as they can get it to be. And that's the end of it. Whereas a lot of games, Ubisoft is famous for padding their games, right? That's sort of the whole point of a Ubisoft game, actually. And so, yeah, I think it does sort of speak to Insomniac's design philosophy more than anything, that they're able to do this while maintaining what sounds like a relatively healthy work culture. There's always the potential that stuff behind the scenes isn't so great, but but from what I've heard, at least, that doesn't sound like Insomniac's in any real trouble of they're not in like a Naughty Dog situation, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And Naughty Dog, talk about a studio that's having a rough go of it right now.
Right.
So yeah.
Which is words that I never thought I would say.
Right.
But Naughty Dog in 2023 has not been looking so hot.
This has not been a good year to be a Naughty Dog fan, I tell you what.
Except
The Last
of Us show, which was early 2023.
Yeah. Well, again,
so on one hand,
that's a show.
It is a show, but it is Naughty Dog, developing a significant portion of it. Did you ever watch that show?
No, I never watched it. I played the game, and I ditched my Max subscription when the whole animated shows thing happened. Yeah. So again, I've played the game, and it's an adaptation, and I'm sure it's a great adaptation, but I have no real reason to watch it.
I will say objectively, it was a really great adaptation. Was it better than the game? Honestly, I go back and forth on that. I think its first 3 episodes are stronger than any point in that game.
Oh, wow. But
then the rest of the season, which is really good still. But then it's almost kind of like you run into a situation, and I'm not going to spoil anything about the show other than it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
But what they did with the first 3 episodes,
really differentiates itself enough to still be amazing in its own right. Yeah. All right, let's move on. I guess we didn't get a whole short list for most anticipated, but again, there's not a lot.
There's not a lot to think about. I can think about a ton of games that are in development. But nothing's been announced for 2024. Yeah,
I could give you a pretty easy list of 4 right off the bat. We got, for me, just personally, we got FF7 Rebirth. We've got Persona 3 Reload. We've got Grand Blue Fantasy Relink right around the time when Persona comes out. And then Trails Through Daybreak comes out in June. And that's talk about a great year for JRPG fans, right?
Right.
But it's looking a little bit like 2024 or no, not 2024, 2021 all over again. And all Atlas needs to do is release a Shin Megami Tensei game, and we'll be square on that. But no, they're releasing a Persona game, so there's no reason for them to do that.
Right.
So, all right, yeah, let's move on to Best Adaptation. I think, 2022, what a great year for adaptations. We got Arcane, we got Cyberpunk Edgerunners, we got the Cuphead show, we got Sonic 2, and we got Uncharted. And Uncharted being the worst of these is amazing to me.
Oh, it was so good. Like as far as like last year went
Yeah.
with adaptations, like
Yeah.
it made the category.
Yeah, like
Like was that the first year we actually had a category?
I don't remember. I feel like 2021 might have, but I could be wrong about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of crazy. Didn't Mortal Kombat come out in 2022? Didn't the Mortal
No, I
Kombat
think that was
movie?
2021. Yeah, no, it was 2021 because that was around
Oh.
the time of lockdown. I mean, it
Oh,
was
okay.
post lockdown, but it was still in those releases of
Yeah.
same day HBO Max
Okay.
type thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
I know distinctly because I remember my dad watching it that morning it came out, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"You already watched it without me?"
Why are you watching Mortal Kombat without me, Dad?
And then I never
That's
watched
funny.
it. So,
Yeah. So, I mean, this year hasn't had as many adaptations, right? I can't think of.
well, we were just talking about one,
Yeah. Last of
and it's
Us
going to
is.
win it.
Yeah. Last of Us is obviously going to win. I mean, the first Last of Us game, pretty much in any context, is going to win every award it's up for. Except
Like
maybe
Game of the Year.
Yeah, like well, like it
When it
swept
shouldn't have.
literally everything at Game of the Year. Wait, what should have beaten it?
Ghost of Tsushima. Sorry, still a little.
Oh no!
butthurt
Oh
about
no!
that.
I was talking about the first Last of Us game. Last of Us Part Two is a different story.
Yeah.
The first
Sorry, I was
Last of
talking
Us
about
game, Last of Us Part One deserves to win most things it's put up for. I'm not the biggest
Right.
fan, but it's undeniable the kinds of stuff it was pushing at the time. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
this year is not nearly as stacked in terms of competition, right? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I could have easily seen a world where Cyberpunk won, where Sonic won, Uncharted, probably not. Cuphead, I don't think made big enough waves, but between those three, for sure, it was like, oh, these are all great adaptations of their source material. And yeah, I think this year we got Last of Us. I'm sure there's others that
Wasn't
I'm
there a
not
movie?
thinking of.
Like, wasn't there a big movie this year?
All right, time to go back to Google. Movies 23. Oh, the Mario movie.
The Mario movie. Ooh.
I can't believe we forgot about the Mario
There
movie.
we go. I was like, I distinctly remember at least one movie where I went and saw it, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we got
Ooh.
the Mario movie.
That's
We got
interesting.
Last of Us. We got Gran Turismo, and we got Twisted Metal.
Oh, great. Oh, yeah. So we do have enough for a category this year.
It's
Definitely enough.
certainly possible.
It's not going to be Gran Turismo
It's
or Twisted Metal. Great games, but
I've heard good things about Twisted Metal, actually.
yeah, I heard good things, but I ain't. You're going to be paired up against two juggernauts that were huge.
Yeah, two massive. I think. I don't see a world where Mario wins.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Unironically, if the Oscars happen this year, and like when it comes to Best Animated Feature,
yeah. Well, no, Spider-Man's still gonna win.
No, I know that, but it's like, I guess, yeah, you're right. Spider-Man's going to win. But I was going to say was like, if it doesn't win at the Game Awards, it's not going to win at the Oscars. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't see a world where Mario beats Spider-Man. It's a DreamWorks movie. It does look great, but most DreamWorks movies are carried by their visuals. It's not.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is like a different thing entirely. So, yeah, I don't see a world where Mario wins at the Game Awards or the Oscars. I could see. I mean, I could see it winning, but to me, it's sort of this is the same committee that did this. I mean, I don't know if you remember in 2017, they did this huge. The Game Awards orchestra was wonderful. They did this huge thing. They did the Zelda theme. They did so many great things. And then at the end of it, they did the Superstar or whatever. I don't remember the name of the song, but the theme song for Odyssey. And it was like, oh, everybody was sort of so sure that after this giant celebration of the new Mario game that it was going to win. And it went to Breath of the Wild. And fair enough. But it does seem to me like, oh, Mario can't compete in that same bracket, right? As much as they might want it to.
Right.
So, which is kind of a shame because, I mean, mascot platformers are so fantastic and 3D Mario games rarely miss. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It's interesting. It's interesting, but definitely not Gran Turismo.
It is interesting. It's not, no. Although it did look like an interesting movie, and I think I definitely wanted to watch it, but it ain't.
Yeah.
It ain't going to beat out those two.
So the next category, this one we're also a little bit less knowledgeable about. It's going to be Best Debut Indie.
Oh.
And I think
I'm not sure.
I don't have a whole list that I can think of off the top of my head. But I can say Lies of P is probably on that list.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, now I think about it, it's going to be Lies of P.
I can't think of another indie game that came out this year that sort of made the same waves, right?
Right.
Last year we had Neon White, Norco.
Well, actually...
Oh, go ahead.
Here's the thing. This borderline's on the edge of indie. So it could be indie. I don't know. Would you classify this as indie? But, oh God, what was that title? It's a rhythm game. Xbox exclusive. From Bethesda. Smaller companies.
It doesn't count. You're talking about Hi-Fi Rush.
Right. Hi-Fi Rush, yeah.
Hi-Fi Rush is not indie because it was developed by the same guys who did The Evil Within.
Okay.
So it doesn't count.
I was going to say, I mean, it's kind of a smaller game.
It's a smaller game.
But its studios are bigger.
Yeah, but the studio is like, I wouldn't call that studio
right
indie by any stretch. But yeah, last year we had Neon White, Norco, Stray, Tunic, and Vampire Survivors. Stray won to next to nobody's surprise.
There was no competing with that.
Yeah, I mean, I've played so much Vampire Survivors that I could have seen that winning, but yeah.
Yeah, but also Stray was also nominated for Game of the Year at the same time.
So there, it was like it was the only game in that category to win or to be nominated for Game of the Year. So it was obviously going to win the category. Yeah, I think that's definitely a trend with the Game Awards is if there's a category where there's only one game that's nominated for Game of the Year, that game's usually going to win that category. I can't think of a lot of... Now, if there are two games in that category that are nominated for Game of the Year, then it becomes a conversation. But beyond that, it's not usually that complicated. But yeah, I think Lies of P is the shoo-in for this year.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. I could be forgetting something completely, but that's my guess. What? The thing just crapped out on me.
Oh.
Okay, let me just view categories. Here we go. Best adaptation, best. We'll skip content creator of the year. Best multiplayer last year was Modern Warfare 2 Multiverses.
Which
Overwatch
it deserved
2,
last year. Oh.
Splatoon 3, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge.
Yeah, it was a pretty big year.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad year. I mean, Overwatch 2, notwithstanding, it was not a bad year for multiplayer games. I'm thinking... I can't think of a lot of games that have like specific multiplayer that came out this year that like made waves, right?
Right. So obviously we're going to get the newest Call of Duty in there.
Yeah,
no doubt on that.
COD's going to get in there. I mean, there's probably Mortal Kombat. I could see.
Yeah,
making
Street
it
Fighter.
onto that list. Street Fighter, yeah, Street Fighter makes sense.
It might be fighting game infested this year.
Yeah, we might have a lot of fighting games in the category, which is fine.
Right. Yeah, it's absolutely fine. But as far as,
but it's not like a lot of variety in the multiplayer category.
Yeah. No, I don't think anything else.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely been like a single player focused year for sure.
Yeah.
Especially in the AAA space.
Yep.
Stop doing this to me, Game Awards website. Best sports racing. This one will be quick. F1 2022, FIFA 23, NBA 2K 23, Gran Turismo 7, and Ollie Ollie World were the nominees. Gran Turismo 7 won. And yeah, I mean, neither of us are really big sports / racing fans.
Yeah. Yeah, there wasn't really big ones even this year for sports too.
Yeah, I think.
Other than what was the big one?
Did a Forza game just come out? Did I make that up? I don't think that happened. Never mind.
No, it's been at least 2 years for Forza. God, what am I thinking of? Wasn't there WWE this year?
Oh yeah.
That was pretty big.
Yeah, I think WWE, and I mean, of course, the I don't remember what it's called, but EA's new soccer game that doesn't have the FIFA logo.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But that'll be on that list for sure. All right, best sim strategy. So this is sort of your either sim games or both your real-time and turn-based strategy. So last year it was Dune Spice Wars, Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which won, Total War Warhammer 3, 2 Point Campus, and Victoria 3. So, in my mind, Fire Emblem.
Oh yeah.
Kind of. Reigns.
I forgot that game came out this year.
Supreme in the.
Yeah, absolutely.
Strategy genre. Like I don't think it's the only game that came out, but I can't think of another game beating it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I can think of one, but it might not be. It might have been. It might be too late before.
Yeah.
The Game Awards nominees go through. So I think.
You're thinking of Persona 5 Tactica?
No, I'm actually not thinking of that, but that's actually a really good one. I'm thinking of Super Mario RPG.
No, that's a different category. Because we're when they talk about like sim strategy, they're talking about like top-down grid-based as opposed to just a turn-based RPG. So like
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Like Fire Emblem and Super Mario RPG would be in different categories, I think. I don't see a world where they're in the same category.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Fire Emblem probably takes this. Persona 5 Tactica could be on this list. I don't know if it's eligible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting. I can't really think of. I'm sorry, I haven't been paying that much attention to the entire list of games that have come out, but I don't think there have been much bigger strategy / sim games to come out. And I mean,
Right.
Fire Emblem is kind of a beast unto itself in the RPG space anyways. Like, it kind of stands next to the bigger names in general JRPGs. So, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. We'll skip Best Family. Not too much to talk about there. Best Fighting. I mean, this one seems pretty obvious to me. Last year, it was DNF Duel, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R, The King of Fighters 15, Multiverses, and Sifu. Kind of weird that Sifu was on that list, but yeah, Multiverses won last year and then proceeded to fall off the face of the earth.
Yep.
This year, I think it's
quite
pretty
literally.
obviously. Yeah, I don't think anybody plays that game anymore.
No, it's done. It's like its beta phase is over, and then they're going to re-release once.
Oh, that's right.
It's completed.
That's right. Yeah, they like went back into their hole. Yeah, I think this year it's pretty obviously Street Fighter. You can make the argument for Mortal Kombat, but I mean, Street Fighter kind of took over for a second there.
Well, yeah. Not only that, Mortal Kombat had some. It had a shaky launch.
Yeah, especially the Switch version. Yeah.
And then also, there's been some criticism on the voice acting too in that game. So it's been like,
it's one of those things where it's you can make the argument for MK, but Street Fighter is definitely
absolutely
more likely. Okay, here's where we start to get to the interesting stuff. We got Best Role Playing.
Yep.
Live Alive, Pokemon Legends Arceus, Triangle Strategy, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And then the winner, Elden Ring. This year, I mean, it was pretty obvious that Elden Ring would win. You could have made the argument for Xenoblade 3 because it was also nominated for Game of the Year, but no world that Xenoblade was going to be Elden Ring, unfortunately. Because I think in terms of a role-playing experience, I would tend to prefer Xenoblade 3, but it's probably a personal thing. This year, I mean, in terms of RPGs, I mean, we got Starfield. We got
Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, FF16 is going to be on that list, even though it leans more action.
Yeah, it leans more action. I agree with you. So it depends on how they categorize it, but
yeah.
But
I mean, it could be. I mean,
it would be weird for it not to show up in RPG, though.
Yeah, that would be very strange given it's Final Fantasy.
Right.
Yeah. So I think Final Fantasy 16 is on that list.
If it's on it, it's winning it. I'm saying that right now. Like,
do you think it beats Starfield?
It beats out Starfield.
Do you think it? Okay, here's a question, because Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty just came out and that got pretty decent reviews.
Yeah, but that's a DLC. Does that count?
Yeah, that's a good question. Usually it doesn't. Right. I feel like this year, aside from the like giant releases, right? Your like Tears of the Kingdoms, your Starfields, those kinds of things. There wasn't a whole lot, right? There wasn't like a ton of games, right? I mean, there's always a ton of games, but there wasn't like a ton of...
Right.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, it's like you said, this is where it gets a little shaky. it's still possible Fire Emblem shows up in the RPG category too.
Yeah, Fire Emblem could absolutely be here. I mean, you could make the argument for Zelda being on this list.
Exactly.
It would be kind of weird.
It would be. And I think that's the only way FF16 doesn't get this category.
Is if
Zelda's in it
on the list. Yeah.
Then I'm a little bit more shaky.
Yeah.
Like, personally, I know my personal preference, but
yeah.
But given its launch, its success, if it's going toe to toe with Starfield, I think FF16 wins.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Because here's the thing, Starfield, and I think we briefly touched upon this. I don't know if we touched upon this during the podcast or before it. Its launch, post-launch, has been up and down.
Yeah, it's yeah, we were talking about this before the podcast, that it has not had the best of post-launch buzz.
Right. And I think,
yeah,
FF16 was a solid game. One of the great things about FF16's launch was that it was successful.
Yeah.
There was no, there was no bad criticisms on the game. And it sold pretty well, and it was popular.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely some more negative reviews, but it was, on the whole, it was definitely a more positive release.
Exactly.
16.
And then the people that loved it.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Well, and 16 is definitely one of those games that feels like it's more teed up to be successful in its first year and then sort of fall off in popularity as time goes on.
Right.
So yeah, I could see it. I could see it definitely on this category.
Oh, Hogwarts. This would be. I think it would be the category. Role playing.
Yeah. The question is, how willing are they to poke the bear, right?
Right. I think they can ignore it. In my personal opinion.
That's totally fair. I just wonder, just because that kind of thing tends to. I mean, Jeff Keighley is a cool enough guy that he does care about this stuff, right? So,
right.
At least as far as I can tell, he cares. So it seems to me like that does seem like a risk assessment that they would have to do.
Right.
Yeah, I guess this is kind of the first category where we've both played some stuff here. I guess Fire Emblem we talked about. And then also, would you say Jedi could get put in here in the role-playing category? Oh,
I'm sorry, what was that?
Would you say Jedi could get put into the role-playing category?
No, that'll be probably designated as action and adventure.
Okay. I think you're probably right.
And it's not an actual I all around I would say that's not a role-playing game.
Yeah. But yeah, I think my RPG of the year is probably going to end up being Fire Emblem. If the Game Awards says that Zelda is a role-playing game, then I guess it's Zelda, but
right.
Until such time, I will just say it's Fire Emblem.
This is where we're going to be interesting on when the nominees do come out, and we're going to be like, huh, so that's the definition of an RPG. What I mean?
That's definitely the thing with fighting game too, right? Like, why is Sifu on that list? Like,
exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think there's plenty of options to put in RPG. It's whether or not it's fully classified as an RPG.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of action adventure, last year we had Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, Tunic, A Plague Tale, and God of War Ragnarok. God of War Ragnarok obviously won. There was no way it was going to lose that last year. This year,
Yeah.
I mean, I think, I haven't played Jedi Survivor yet. You did.
Yep.
I know that the critical reception to that game was actually much more positive than your reception. So to me, it seems like it could definitely be on this list.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Yeah, I think Jedi Survivor absolutely nominated. The big thing for me is, God, yeah, this would have to be. Yeah, I think it has just enough time to be considered for this year. But absolutely, I think Spider-Man 2 is not only getting nominated in this category, but winning.
Spider-Man's getting nominated. Zelda's probably on this list.
Right. And that's the thing, all right, I guess it's time to open this can of worms. But as Ezra put it, I did not like Jedi Survivor. I think it's, I played the whole game. I put a decent amount of time into it. I put 30 hours into it, which was more than the actual game's length. So I did enjoy some of it. But the thing is like, there were story elements that I felt were lackluster and predictable, to say the least. Like highly predictable. It was so distracting in that regard. And the biggest problem I had was I could have forgiven that if it wasn't for, honestly, this is probably one of the worst games I've played in terms of performance-wise.
Yeah.
This year. And,
I mean, it wasn't a particularly great launch for PC players.
No, and even the PS5, I can tell you, I played this on the PS5, and a lot of people gave a lot of heat towards Final Fantasy 16, overheating and stuff. The game that I actually had problems on wasn't Final Fantasy 16 at all. It was Jedi Survivor. And so much so that it's still, to this day, hard for me to play. Because the problem is that graphically, it's amazing. Mechanically,
it looks incredible.
It's amazing. That's the best parts of this game, is like, it's beautiful when it runs correctly. Because the problem is that the frame drops are insane. You could be skipping all over the place at any moment. There were several times where I fell through the floor. It was like almost as bad as like a Bethesda level when it came to that stuff. There was one time where I hit a wall. I just jumped onto a wall, and then it ricocheted me out of the whole entire I want to say map, but I just was in the sky. I haven't really experienced that in several years. Yeah. As far as the game goes. I mean, granted, I didn't play Cyberpunk 2077 because of the performance issues.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it was as bad as that, but I could tell you this. If Star Wars wasn't in the title, people would be complaining more about its performance.
Yeah, because I believe you.
Not only that, I had several crashes on this game.
Oh, yeah. That's a death sentence.
And so much so that I was like, this was a month ago, actually. So we're still dealing with these problems.
Yeah, it hasn't been patched.
I turned it on to show my dad a little bit of the game and how beautiful it looks, right, as a Star Wars game.
Yeah.
I turned it on, and it didn't even last 5 minutes before the game crashed on me. completely crashed on me. And I was like, oh, yep, that's why I didn't like this game. And then stopped. Like, I was like, okay. Like,
yeah.
Like, definitively, and I don't mean to be, like, I'm gonna wrap up soon on this, but, like, totally trashing on Jedi Survivor. But it is the worst game I've played this year.
Sure.
And,
Wow.
you know, you might be like, oh, wow, that's such a strong statement. I mean, it is, but I have played so many great games this year. This is a good game, Jedi Survivor. Might not have liked it, but it was a good game. I rate it like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
That's how high caliber of a year it's been.
Yeah. I mean, 2023 has been an amazing year for games. So, yeah, I don't see a world where Jedi wins action adventure.
Right.
But yeah, I think Zelda is pretty obviously the winner here. I can't see. Oh, we forgot in the role playing category. We completely forgot about Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh yeah, and
I knew I was forgetting something.
Wouldn't that be multiplayer too?
And yeah, and it would be in multiplayer. Yeah, I think it absolutely takes multiplayer, and I think it absolutely takes role playing too. I can't believe we forgot about Baldur's Gate. Yeah, I don't see a world where Baldur's Gate doesn't take either of those categories. It's not an action or an adventure game, so there's no way it's going to win this category. But yeah, I think. Yeah, and then let's move on to action, just because they're sort of cousins. We've got Bayo 3, which
they're not the same.
Yeah, they're not the same. There's action, and then there's action adventure.
Ooh.
And I don't think there's a. Yeah, there's not an adventure category, which is a bit strange.
Which one are we on?
Best action.
Oh, okay.
So those are Bayonetta 3, Modern Warfare 2, Neon White, Sifu, and then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge. And yeah, Bayo won. This year, I think Armored Core's probably going to be on this list.
I think Resident Evil will be on this list.
Resident Evil for sure. Well, okay, do you think Resident Evil 4 is going to be on the action-adventure list?
I mean, it might be on role-playing, but...
I don't see it really as role-playing.
There's no horror category, though.
Yeah.
So, that's why... Which is weird to say, considering how many big horror games come out in a year. But yeah, there's no horror category, so I think it either gets here or
I mean, it's one of those things where like, oh, then you have to add like a fantasy category, and then you have to add a sci-fi category, and it's
right.
Like, yeah, okay, we don't want to do any of that. Let's just stay away from it. Yeah. I think Armored Core. The new Assassin's Creed just came out, and
the newest Assassin's Creed.
I know that's been fairly divisive, but it could be on this list.
Well, I wouldn't say it's been so divisive. From what I've seen, it's been, Assassin's Creed has been divisive since Origins, but honestly, actually, since Unity. But like, I loved Unity, so I'm in the small pool of people who loved Unity at launch.
Yeah.
Not the retrospective people now that are like, Unity wasn't a half bad game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I know. I was telling y'all this for years, and y'all looked at me crazy. Yeah.
It's the same thing that happened to Zelda Wind Waker, where everybody was dogging on it when it first came out, and then, when the remake, the HD version came out, everybody was like, oh, I have such fond memories of the Wind Waker. And it was like, no, you didn't. You were trashing on this when it first came out. What are you talking about?
So, Mirage is supposed to be returned to 4.
Yeah.
This is where the not controversy, but the divisiveness happens, where you either have the people that loved Origins through Valhalla,
Yeah.
or you have the people that, no, this is still not quite the same as the way it used to. So that's kind of the thing, will I play Mirage? Maybe. I've been considering it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have Origins,
you're a fan
and
of like
Odyssey.
the like AC universe, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
like,
mean, well, I stopped playing mid Origins
yeah, I
because it
think
just wasn't my kind of game.
yeah, my understanding is that it definitely is sort of a return to Assassin's Creed's like overarching narrative, not just
Right.
the like branding. So that's at least some incentive, I guess. But yeah, I think Armored Core is on the action game list. I think AC is on it. I think it's going to be between Armored Core and Spider-Man on this list. And I don't see a world where Spider-Man loses. Gotta be honest. Could be mistaken. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really going to be how they format these categories, because it's like I could think of a bunch of games, being within each one, but if like they're not going to be in all the categories.
Yeah.
Like I could easily say like Final Fantasy 6 best action and adventure category, best action.
Oh yeah, I guess it
best
could.
role
Yeah,
play.
FF16 could.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it depends.
But it depends on how they categorize them. Is really the problem. Like,
because FF16 is going to be in the action category, and I mean, mechanically speaking, it probably ends up being the most robust action game. I mean, maybe Armored Core is better. I haven't played Armored Core, to be perfectly honest, but yeah, it's definitely it's interesting because it's one of those things where the category can mean so many different things, right? So yeah. Okay, let's go, I guess, touching on best mobile. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me that Honkai Star Rail wins this just because not a whole lot else in the core space has come out. But maybe I'm wrong.
Ever Crisis.
No way.
No way, you think?
No way it beats Honkai.
Oh, I don't think it beats it. I think it gets nominated.
Sure. I can see Ever Crisis getting nominated.
It's too early, though, to say, because that game just launched and it's not complete, obviously.
Yeah, that's a good point. But we'll
Even
see.
though it had a big launch.
Yeah.
For Final Fantasy fans, I don't think.
Yeah,
no, I take it back.
Good enough reception.
I don't think it gets nominated.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you. Best mobile game is such a weird category, anyways.
It is.
Best indie. I mean, Lies of P. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't really think of another like gigantic indie game that came out. I know there have been, but I just can't think of like a bigger game than Lies of P, and one that's gotten as good a reception. So yeah. Let's skip best ongoing. I don't think there's really any need for that. Best performance. Okay, so this is interesting because this is more like an Oscars style category. We've got Ashley Birch in Horizon Forbidden West. She plays Aloy. Charlotte McBurney in A Plague Tale Requiem. I don't know the main characters. name in that game. We've got Manon Gage. I hope I'm saying that name right. She was in Immortality. And then we got Sonny Soljic, who is in God of War Ragnarok. He plays the son. And then Christopher Judge, who plays Kratos in God of War Ragnarok. He won famously, easily deserved, famously went on stage and talked for a million years.
Hey, Christopher Judge can talk for a half hour to an hour, as long as he likes, because, you know.
Yeah. They tried to play him off.
I know they did.
But yeah.
Because they didn't want to keep giving out, what was it?
Steam Decks.
Steam Decks, yeah. Yeah. They didn't want to keep giving out Steam Decks. But in fairness, though, he absolutely deserved that award.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean,
his
talk about...
performance was incredible.
Yeah. Talk about a... a mastery of just performance and bringing a character to life, right? Like,
yeah,
it's one of those things that it's one of those things that makes me a little sad that Andy Serkis doesn't do a lot of game stuff, right? Because, I mean, talk about an actor who could do so much with the game's performance,
with visual effects,
and stuff. But yeah, Christopher Judge, I mean, absolutely deserves it, kills it as Kratos. I haven't even played the God of War duology, and I know that like that's a performance.
I mean, honestly, there's like I won't give it away or anything to our listeners, but like there's a point at the end of the game of Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And it's just so, nothing, all the action's done, and it's actually as it's wrapping, but it's just beautiful. It's so beautifully done. And it's part of Christopher Judge's performance at the end there, where it's just his subtleties and the way he, like,
yeah,
I almost want to, yeah, that would be going into spoiler territory, but it's just more of like, it's a certain look that he gives his son.
Yeah.
And it's the way, because it's not just a look, it's the way his whole body moves in that moment.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, it's so satisfying. It's incredible. And it's just, I mean, Ragnarok, I didn't get to play last year before the Game Awards. I actually played it in January. It was the first game I played this year. So it's personally my favorite game I've played this year. But obviously, this doesn't count for this year.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
If that makes sense. Year, but it's easily one of my favorite games of all time. This Ragnarok was.
Yeah. No, I hear that for sure. All right. Next category is best score in music. We have our first, maybe sort of controversial one from last year. We had Plague Tale Requiem, Elden Ring, Metal Hellsinger, Xenoblade 3, and God of War Ragnarok.
I don't think it's controversial at all.
Well, so God of War won.
Yeah.
I think Xenoblade should have won.
See, this
and I think Sonic Frontiers should have gotten nominated. That was my soundtrack of the year, was the Sonic Frontiers soundtrack. Just because there was so much great stuff in that soundtrack. But I was like, that's partly bias. But yeah, I don't know. I think personally, I just, the amount of just like cohesiveness and love that went into the Xenoblade soundtrack to me, and I won't pretend that same amount of love didn't go into the God of War soundtrack, but I don't know. There's just something about it that to me it's sort of this. God of War strikes me as having a very much sort of Hollywood style soundtrack, not necessarily in a bad way, and you can correct me on this, but it has this sort of Hollywood feel to it where it doesn't feel as unique, and Xenoblade has its own identity in this way that I was pretty sad that it didn't win best soundtrack.
Right. Well, I agree with you. Like, I agree that, Xenoblade is very unique. And honestly, retrospectively, I would say, yeah, it definitely deserves the nomination, and it is a strong contender.
Yeah.
I can tell you there was something about God of War soundtrack.
Sure.
Ragnarok
and that's
soundtrack.
As somebody who hasn't played it, I have to maintain that that knowledge that like I can't speak to it exactly. I loved Xenoblade 3 so much, and it was like the one category that I could see it winning. And so I mean, because Xenoblade was my game of the year last year. So yeah, I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame that it kind of turned out that way just because I would have liked it to win something, but yeah. But this year it's interesting because there's not as much in the way of like heavy hitters in the soundtrack space. Like, most games that come out have great soundtracks, but I guess in my head, it kind of goes to Zelda, and maybe that's bias, but I don't really see Spider-Man winning soundtrack. That seems a little out of place. I don't see Star Wars winning just because Star Wars is using so much established stuff from a movie franchise that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for it to win best score. I don't know about Baldur's Gate. But
yeah, I
haven't heard a whole lot about it from a soundtrack perspective.
Well, I think this year's going to be great for soundtracks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to step away for just a second. I had a phone call. But as far as I agree with you, Baldur's Gate, I don't think is going to. That one, I'm not sure. I haven't really heard anything about the soundtrack, but without a doubt, Spider-Man's getting on there. Spider-Man's going to be a big contender.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy 16 is going to be a huge contender.
Yeah, FF16 is going to be on that list for sure. I guess for me,
Zelda.
It's sort of, to me, it seems obvious that it's between FF and Zelda.
I agree.
What I was saying before you got back was that Star Wars makes sense to be on here, but it doesn't seem like it would win just because it's using a bunch of motifs from movies. Like that doesn't seem very appropriate.
Well, also, again, not to be the hater of Jedi Survivor or anything, but honestly, Jedi Fallen Order soundtrack was better.
Sure,
my opinion.
I believe that.
That's just I'm really trashing on Jedi Survivor, but it's
it's one of those things where it's like because everybody loves it, you're like, oh well, I didn't love it as much, so you kind of turn
Right.
into a hater just because you weren't as fond of it.
Right. I enjoyed it, but it ain't. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, I think to me it's between FF16 and Zelda. Spider-Man, I think, is on the list, but again, it's one of those things where it's like, because it's a superhero game and that genre is so played out in our culture, whereas like, say what you will about Zelda soundtracks and Zelda games, like sort of overusing their concepts. I mean, the Tears of the Kingdom soundtrack, like, especially the main theme, like makes me tear up every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, I haven't played it, but I already could tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, I have played it.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't
you've played. Yeah. You haven't played through it. Yeah. Yeah.
And I can already tell you it's up there. And so I will objectively speak, like, it's going to be tough for FF16 to win over Zelda. I actually think Zelda's going to beat it.
Yeah, I think the thing that's in Zelda's favor is the lack of variety in 16's soundtrack.
And that's what I was about to cite as well. I was about to cite the exact same thing. The soundtrack is great.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's no variety in it.
Yeah. There's not enough of it.
For a 40-hour game.
Yeah.
It gets very repetitive after a while.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I was saying when it came out, like, one of my favorite things about Shin Megami Tensei 5 specifically is the sheer number of different boss themes that are in that game, and the fact that if I encounter a boss, there is a specific theme for each different like type of boss. And then there's also the individual boss themes, right? The big story boss that has his own theme. And to me, it's sort of a shame that FF16, while again having an amazing soundtrack, there are only a few instances where a boss gets its own theme song. And that's a real shame to me, because it's like, oh, you could have had, I mean, the Titan Lost theme has this sort of dubstep thing weird to it. That's a bit weird. But, if there's a world where, like, the Benedicta boss theme was this, like, emo song or something, and then stuff like that, that's like, they went in this different direction that isn't as kind of, I guess, traditional Final Fantasy-ish in the best way, in the nicest way possible.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the FF16 soundtrack is great. It has great themes. I kind of hope it's on the game. I hope the game's on the Game of the Year list, just so Find the Flame can get played by the Game Awards Orchestra. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I don't know. Zelda, to me, Zelda seems like the top pick, but I could be wrong. And maybe Spider-Man's soundtrack really is just that good.
Yeah, Spider-Man has the potential to be a sleeper, but we don't know.
Yeah.
The game hasn't out yet, so we can't speak to that.
To me, it's just like the hard thing about it is more that it's like Spider-Man is riffing on pre-existing tropes that aren't really from the game space, whereas Zelda has always been a video game, so it's only using tropes from the game space.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. Best art direction. This one we got God of War, Horizon, Scorn, Stray, and Elden Ring. Elden Ring won. No surprise there. I think it's not It doesn't seem very disputable to me. I know God of War was popular, but Elden Ring was definitely on that list. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the you know, I'm sorry. What was the
Art
category
direction.
we're talking about? Art direction. Okay. Yeah, as far as art direction goes, I think the the I think Elden Ring was probably more
Yeah,
for like as far as God of War went, the the game itself was beautiful and there was a lot of new environments, but there was already pre-existing environments that was from the previous God of War too. So
yeah,
as much as I love the art direction of God of War Ragnarok, I got to give it to Elden Ring just because
yeah,
it's fresh. I guess is
yeah.
the
Yeah,
point
Elden
in
Ring
that.
was definitely like sort of special. Like it was one of those things that's like, oh, this is just going to stand the test of time forever, right? Like no game, unless FromSoft releases an Elden Ring 2, no game is
Right.
ever going to like capture the same vibe of Elden Ring. Yeah, I guess this year I'm looking at like Spider-Man, maybe Baldur's Gate.
Mm,
I guess Lies of P I could see on this list actually.
right.
What else? Starfield? Maybe?
Uh, yeah, Star.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get
Yeah, okay,
Starfield.
yeah, Starfield.
Did we talk about Baldur's Gate?
Yeah, I mentioned Baldur's Gate, but yeah,
Okay,
I
yeah.
think that'll be on this list. I guess if I had to pick a winner, I guess Zelda,
Yeah.
just because it's
This
the
is where the
most.
Zelda sweep is possible.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in the like last few categories here, and it's
Yeah.
very obvious that Zelda could win any of them.
Hmm.
Yeah. I have a hard time with Zelda just because it is so similar to Breath of the Wild in terms of
Right.
design and art that, and I mean
Maybe
it
it was
definitely has its own stuff, but
hmm.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Best narrative. I mean, we could almost skip this one. God of War won last year. I think
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate's kind of a shoe-in. I mean, unless Spider-Man is like a genre-defining, there is nothing that's been like this or will ever be like this.
And it's
Like,
possible.
it's possible,
It's
but
possible.
I mean, Baldur's Gate has the benefit of being an RPG where you can just do so much different stuff. Like the fact, and like no two playthroughs of that game are going to be the same. I think,
And I also, yeah.
I guess to me, it just seems like there's no other game. Like
I mean,
FF16 has a good story. You know, Zelda, I would say, has a good story. Like, there are great stories that came out this year, but
hmm.
Baldur's Gate kind of seems like it's in a league of its own.
Yeah.
All right, we're kind of down to our last two here. Best
Hmm.
game direction. Last year was God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Immortality, Stray, and Elden Ring. Elden Ring won. I think this was very
this
much
was the determiner for Game of Year.
Yeah, I think this was very much a coin flip too. Like I don't see a world where this was an easy decision, right? And yeah, I think. I mean, to me, it seems a bit obvious that it's kind of between Zelda and Baldur's Gate. But I could see the argument for FF.
That's what I was going to say. I could see FF. I think it's a 3-way split between the three.
And Spider-Man in there as well.
I think the thing that I would be a little disappointed in, and it's only because I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
I would be kind of disappointed to see Baldur's Gate 3 win that category, but
No, I get it. Yeah. And then lastly, Game of the Year. Nominees were God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, Plague Tale Requiem, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and Elden Ring. Again, Elden Ring won. Again, I think it was a coin flip. God of War definitely won more individual categories than Elden Ring did.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things that to anybody who says that they wish Elden Ring didn't win, my response is usually that they should play Elden Ring.
Right.
Like, Elden Ring was not my game of the year, but I totally understood why it won. So this year, I mean, we have kind of a similar situation. I think Zelda and Baldur's Gate are definitely at that top of, like, it's kind of between these two. I don't see a world where FF16 beats either of them, right? Because the acclaim has not been nearly as universal for that game as it was for Baldur's Gate 3 or Zelda.
I think this is where I tend to be a little bit on the side of, I think, depending, like, again, we're talking on what if situation. I still think Spider-Man 2 has a really strong shot. I thought Spider-Man 1 had a really strong shot in 2018, even with how big of a category it was.
Yeah. It was up against God of War.
It was up against God of War. Like, honestly, objectively speaking, Spider-Man 1, like Spider-Man 2018, was better than God of War 2018.
Oh, wow.
And that's my opinion. Like, that's like my personal opinion. And, you know, as much as I have been praising God of War, Ragnarok, and everything, that's kind of the tier I see it. I mean, once again, it's going up against a big juggernaut, Zelda. You know what I mean? It's because, I guess it was Zelda Breath of the Wild that year.
That's the thing. No, that was the year before.
Oh, it was the year before.
Yeah.
What was the other Nintendo game? It was a big Nintendo game that year too.
Oh, what was it? It was Smash?
Or was that the year Sekiro won?
No. That was 2019.
19?
I think. All right, I need to look up the Game Awards.
No, 2019 was Last of Us, wasn't it?
Oh, that's right. That's right. No. Yeah, it won 2019. Wait, no. Yeah. Yeah, because that was 2020 is when Part 2 came out.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Sekiro.
What was 2018 then?
2018 winners list.
I could have swore Zelda was on there.
No, it was God of War, or God of War 1. Let me look.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it was Red Dead 2. That's what you're thinking of.
Oh, Red Dead 2. Yeah, because I remember it being... Yeah, that's right.
I remember we did
games.
Lab Rats. That was the other podcast we did. That was the episode, and I was saying the entire time, there's no way Red Dead loses.
Yep.
And hadn't even played Red Dead. I was like, Red Dead against God of War? Are you serious? I mean, this is the God of War. It's not a reboot, but the sort of reimagining that came out. This was sort of the first instance of it, and I'd heard great things, but I was also like, it's God of War. Like, there's no way it beats Red Dead. There's no way. And it beat it, and I was like, oh, okay.
Now, granted, it is deserved. I have played that, and I agree. It's a game of the year caliber game. Is it better than Spider-Man that year?
Oof.
I would say yes, only because I think I had lower expectations on Spider-Man, which is weird to say.
Oh, okay, sure.
You know what I'm saying?
You were like surprised by how good Spider-Man was,
right? Because remember, Ezra, how shocked,
and
how amazing of a game that was.
Yeah, I remember being like, "Oh, this is this game is kind of meant to be good, isn't it?" And then downloading it and playing it, and like, "Oh, this is like my favorite Spider-Man thing."
Exactly. So that's why I'm like.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying.
I'm just trying to say, basically, Spider-Man 2 has a stronger shot this time around.
Sure.
And I wouldn't sleep on it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think
that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, I've told you this. I think for me, there's pretty much no shot Zelda loses my personal game of the year.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I could easily be mistaken about that. Spider-Man could be that good. By all means. I mean, I kind of hope it's that good. But to me, it's sort of just like Zelda was so like singular in its excellence, and there hasn't really been another game that's come out this year that I'm super fond of in that same way. Like, I've played plenty of games this year that came out that I loved, but yeah, I don't think Zelda gets topped. But yeah, I guess you were talking about God of War. What other things have you played so far that you would say are like on your Game of the Year short list?
Well, I'll just go down the list of games that I played this year. I mean, started with Ragnarok. Then I played Crisis Core, which was again last year.
Yeah. That was
so, like, the first quarter of this year was me getting caught up of last year's, which might be the same case this year, although I don't think it'll be nearly as bad. Mostly because I'm pretty caught up. The next thing I played after that, I went back and played FF7R just because Crisis Core.
Yeah.
And then actual 2023 releases that I started, I followed that up with Jedi Survivor. And so played 3 really great games, in my opinion. And yeah, Jedi Survivor really disappointed me. And then Redemption was Final Fantasy 16 after that. And then now I'm on to Zelda. So honestly, I haven't really played much other than that.
Yeah. I think... Yeah, so for me, the short list is very much Zelda, Fire Emblem.
And absolutely, like, no doubt, Fire Emblem is, it's so early in the year that I think if it came out like around now, it would be more of a stronger talk for Game of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely in the conversation,
Right.
but I think it's one of those things where, like you said, because it came out
Right.
at the beginning
And
of the year, it's just not getting that much buzz.
Exactly. And from what I've seen of that game, from when I saw you play it, but even before that point, I mean, the game looked like a phenomenal game. So I was just...
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only thing. I have it. I actually have it. I haven't played it. It's in my backlog of, as soon as... Honestly, as soon as Spider-Man is pretty much done, I think I'm going to be diving into that backlog a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about Fire Emblem is that if you play it on the easiest difficulty, it's honestly not that long of a game. So yeah, and then Zelda will take a pretty long time though. So yeah, so I play Fire Emblem, Zelda, Final Fantasy 16, Trails into Reverie, and then I don't know. And then after that, I sort of went back and replayed some stuff. I replayed Shin Megami Tensei 5 recently. I replayed Nier Automata recently. I'm replaying Elden Ring. Yeah, and I'm kind of just anticipating Spider-Man right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's kind of the long and short of it. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
This has been a great year for games. I guess I should say I tried to get into Baldur's Gate 3, decided it wasn't really for me.
Right.
I think it was one of those things where I was just kind of hopping on the bandwagon and I just wasn't really into it. So, and that's okay. That's totally fine. But yeah, that kind of brings us to the end of this sort of Game of the Year watch. I think it's going to be an interesting year just because, I mean, it's kind of another instance of the sort of two titans, right? Zelda and Baldur's Gate. Like, I haven't seen two games that inhabit such a different space have to get clashed against each other, right? Because, Elden Ring and God of War, at least you could say, like, okay, they're both third-person action RPGs, right? Like, they have different design philosophies, but at the end of the day, they're, like, in the same kind of category of game.
Right.
Zelda has some role-playing in it, and Baldur's Gate has some exploration and stuff in it, right? But beyond that, they could not be two more different games.
Yeah.
And they're both obviously going to be on that Game of the Year nominee list. There's no way either of them isn't. And I don't know, it's going to be really interesting to see which one kind of comes out on top. If, let's say maybe Final Fantasy 16 manages the victory. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, it'll be really interesting. In, I believe, early to sort of mid-November will be when the nominee list comes out. So we'll go over that when that happens. And yeah, so just to sort of wrap things up, we'll talk about some of the plans we have for the future. Next time, we'll be recording on the week after Spider-Man 2 comes out.
Yep.
So we'll have kind of a week to simmer to try to get through it all at least.
Yeah, and then we could talk about whether or not it's, you know, actual caliber of actually winning it all. But
we'll be able to further clarify our thoughts there. And then yeah, I mean, I just started a personal YouTube channel where I'll be doing like reviews and stuff. And so you'll probably see sort of a written, a shorter sort of 10 minutes or more review of Spider-Man 2. Maybe not before that podcast comes out, but around that time. And we'll have that linked in the description of this, or we'll have at least my channel linked in the description.
right.
And yeah, I'm talking about all sorts of stuff right now. And yeah, and then we have some other stuff. Caleb's going to be doing his own kind of sort of hype watch segment on the show that we weren't really able to do. I don't know if you want to go into why, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, usually, so I'll be like talking about like trailer watches and everything. So like the with this week, honestly, there wasn't really much to kind of cover in the next 2 weeks that I saw. I mean, that I would think. I mean, New York Comic Con is this weekend, but I'm not of the gaming industry. That's not going to show much. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's going to be something to look out for. But basically, I will be like in these type of segments. I'd be like, hey, look out for this. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a strong chance, and then Ezra's going to be the other side and pretty much tell me, not a chance, type of thing. Yeah. And we'll see who comes out right. But I'm pretty sure I'll be right. But
for example, just to make you put on the clown makeup a little bit.
Oh no!
Recently, in this past September, TGS just happened, and Caleb was sure there was going to be a Kingdom Hearts 4
I was
trailer.
so sure.
He was positive there was going to be a Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer. And I was like, listen, I can see the stars aligning in your head. I get what you're saying, but I don't know, man. I'm not getting my hopes up. But he was like, no, there's no way there's not a Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer tomorrow. And I wake up the next day and I'm like, yep.
Just disappointment.
No trailer. And
that was not my finest hour.
We will hopefully we sort of keep a tally on how many it'll be like days since Caleb got a prediction right or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, that'll be a fun thing. We have some other ideas for some stuff we're going to do. We're going to be doing we haven't sorted out the details yet, but we're going to be doing something of a sort of book club style thing. And it won't be specific to video games. It might be a movie or a TV show, but that'll basically be like, for instance, Caleb hasn't played the Devil May Cry games, and I think he would really like them. So I'll say like, hey, this month play the first Devil May Cry game, or just something like that. That is, Devil May Cry is 7 hours long. It's not that long of a game at all, and it's pretty casual. But then you could kind of come back and sort of report, and how did you like it? What was it like? That kind of thing. And again, we'll maybe branch out into some other forms of media for that. Just because, we're big Clone Wars fans, so we'll be like, oh yeah, let's do season 2 of the Clone Wars or something like that, just for fun. And that'll be kind of its own special episode that month or something like that. So yeah, keep a lookout for that. Caleb, did you have anything else you wanted to mention?
Nope, honestly, not yet. I'm just looking forward to our next episode, and I think that we got some pretty strong ideas, and I can't wait until we can do that. And honestly, I can't wait till Spider-Man. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really excited for Spider-Man. That'll be the topic. I guess I should clarify our sort of format is half an hour on news and then an hour or two,
Right.
however long it takes us on whatever our topics are going to
whatever
be.
topic we choose. Yeah.
And we sort of have decided that we will either sort of collaborate on a topic like we did today, or we will kind of do our own thing. We'll sort of each take half of that half hour.
It might be just an example of two main topics.
Yeah.
But no more than two.
And that'll be something that we talk about more going forward. But yeah, next podcast for sure. I mean, we are both going to have played at least some of Spider-Man, so we will probably be talking a lot about Spider-Man.
If not all.
Hopefully, my hope is that we can do a spoiler cast. But that's a different that we'll have to sort of cross that bridge when we come to it. But thanks so much for listening. This is the Sorry I Like This podcast. Or
in the case of Jedi Survivor, sorry I didn't like this.
Sorry I didn't like this. And we don't really have that big of a social media presence. We don't have a whole lot. We're basically just doing the YouTube thing, and we'll branch out in the future. And so if you could just give us a subscribe if you liked it, leave a like, all that stuff that really helps. Share it if you think this was an interesting discussion and people could benefit from it for whatever reason. Please, by all means. And thanks for watching or listening.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Don't watch. Watching this would be boring. Thanks for listening.